Turn.
Okay. Regarding the Yom Tov of Chanukah and connected with Moshiach, obviously the connection of Chanukah to Moshiach is very on the surface. You know, the meaning of Chanukah is brought down in many Sfarim is the light of Moshiach, the light of Chanukah candle. The Polish Sfarim call it Oir HaGanuz, the concealed light of Moshiach. The 8 days of Chanukah are connected to the number of 8 is a Moshiach number. Chassidus explained that the whole uftu of Chanukah, that the darkness is transformed to light. V'havaya Giya Choshki is meyein of Lasad Lavi. But I want to discuss a few nekudas regarding Chanukah and Moshiach, some things that people could think about on their own, do some exercise, do some homework if they want.
Thought exercises.
One thing Stam Arabam, actually Rabbi Galitzky spoke about it this week, so others, was when Moshiach will come, when are you going to light Chanukah candles? Because it says that when Moshiach will come, by night will be as light as by day. So we light Chanukah candles, Dafka, Mishatishka Chama, when the sun sets. So, because it should be noticeable in the dark, but when Moshiach will come, when exactly is going to be the Zman, it will be exactly like now, or different. Sam, you could read his Ha'ara, he wrote a whole thing about it this week. There's another thing that Rebbe said a number of times, a few other nekudas. First of all, now we don't light outside, even though there are people that light outside even today. The original takana, the original way it was instituted, Bizman HaGemara, was to light outside, al Pesach Beisim Bachutz, but for whatever reason that are given, inside anti-Semitism, or because of the winter outside of in the in European countries, whatever, it's not shaykh to light outdoors. Then al Pinik, al Pi Chassidus, whatever it is, we light indoors. Even now, when the Rebbe made a whole shturim to make public menorah lightings outside, but the actual menorah lighting is done indoors. When Moshiach will come, we'll obviously light, everyone will light outside. So that's one thing connected to Pashal Pi Allah, connected with Moshiach. Another thing that Rebbe spoke many times, the La'asalavi you'll have, the Allah will be like Beis Shammai. So now we go like Beis Hillel, that we have the first night is 1, the second night is 2, and so on and so forth. When Moshiach will come, the Allah will be like Beis Shammai. So the first night of Chanukah you'll have the 8, then you'll have 7, but if the Rebbe says in the Kuntus Halachash and the Hadran on the Ram and Tavshin and Beis, famous Sichah, the Rebbe says it's that when Moshiach will come, in the second period will fulfill 2 opposite opinions simultaneously. How would that be possible? With Keich HaAtzmus. The Atzmus is Nimna HaNimnois. You can have 2 opposites at the same time. So in the second period, every single opinion, now we could either pass like B'Shamar or like Beis Hillel. When Mashiach will come, then there will be Niskala, the Ratzon HaAtzmi, that's in Torah, which includes both opinions. So you're going to have both opinions b'maisa b'poil. Mitzad Keich HaAtzmus, Sanim HaNimnois. In Seichel, we can't understand what that means, But, so L'gabi the Menorah means you light Menorah, Salik B'Shamar, Salik Beis Hillel.
It doesn't mean that you first do like this, then like that. We could do that these days also.
But another thing is, regarding the menorah, you don't need to have nimna menorahs. You can light 2 separate menorahs.
Yeah, but that probably means something else.
You can light one menorah the first time with 1 candle, another one, it's not. So the people spoke of these things, people, different in the Qudus people mentioned. So, that's from the Geya Chanukah Lasav. It's one interesting thing in Chanukah that there's not much, there's a lot discussed about it, but it's just interesting discussion. We know that every Yom Tov there's a Kri in the Torah. You have Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot. Chanukah we also read in the Torah, but there's nothing in the Torah written about Chanukah. We read about the Korbanos that the Nesiim brought when they inaugurated by the Chanukah Samizbech, was by the days of the Chashmonaim, they also had to make a Chanukah Samizbech. So the Purim, we have the Megillah. Chanukah, we don't really have anything that we read that's connected with Chanukah. What we do have Rebbe once spoke al Sikh about this. What we do have in some communities is they have what's called Megillas Antiochus. Megillas Antiochus is a story of Chanukah in brief. Some details are more well known, some details are less. Well, it's printed around a number of Sidurim, pretty easy to find. And some communities have a custom of reading it. They don't make a bracha on it. It's not written on cloth. It doesn't have all the halachas of Kriyas HaMegillah. It's a custom that's done. Where's the Megillas Antiochus? It's in a number of Sidurim that they have it. You could, I can't tell you offhand the Sefer. I could tell you the first printed Ita Gabriel and Chanukah has it. The Rabbi Yaakov Emden Siddur, I would assume, would have it. Or other Siddur.
When was it composed?
It's a good question. I'll get to that in a moment. So the Rebbe spoke once a whole Sikha ganz severe that in Purim, the avodah of presuming Nisa, the avodah of Purim is done through reading in the Torah. Because the avodah is Momayla Lamata. We read the Torah is pearl on the world. And Chanukah, the avodah is Pesach Beisim Bachus. We find the world by lighting candles on the outside. So Mela, the avodah is not to use the Torah to refine the world. The avodah is to go use the things of the outside itself, transform them to Kedusha. So Memela, we have something which is not really one of the 24 Kisvei HaKodesh. It's not part of the Tanakh. It doesn't have it's not an in Torah, but that's the Indian of Chanukah, that is Pesach Beisim Bachus. It's not something which is, like you put him, it's like Momayla Lamata. You're taking the Kriya of Torah. Torah is pearl on the world. In Chanukah, it's a different word, is that you're going into the world, that you're transforming the world itself. So Memela, you have a Megillah. It's called Megillas Antiochus. It's probably not called Megillas Chashminoim. The name of the Megillah is talking about a goy. The whole avoid is that it's within the world itself. Whatever, it's not a chiyuv, it's not even in Torah. Rabban spoke all sich about it. But now there's an interesting the Rogachover, the Safnas Panecha, the Rogachover, there's a number of interesting things. The Rebbe quotes him a lot. The Rebbe held very high of him. I'm sure you're all aware. And he writes in one of his letters, he writes that when Moshiach will come, we'll have a Megillah for Chanukah. We'll have a Megillah for Chanukah. He says, the Rogachover writes this. There's a Masechta Seifrim. The Masechta Seifrim writes, the exact lashon I forget, but the Masechta Seifrim is, there's small Masechtas, like Masechta Mezuz, in the back of Masechta Avodah Zarah, after Pirkei Avos in the big Shas. So you have Avos Terab Nos, and then you have these small Masechtas, probably most people never heard of, like Masechta Mezuz, Masechta Avodah, Masechta Tefillin. So there's something called Masechta Seif, Masechta Smach. Masechta Smach, I'm sure people have heard more famous. It's also one of these small Masechtas, which the versions are unclear. It's a little bit like Yerushalmi, we don't have a clear girsa in it. It wasn't learned so much. It wasn't, not too many Perushim written on it. There's a Masechta called Masechta Seifrim. It deals with Kriyas HaTorah and different things. It's discussed in Halacha, the Haneres Halolo, I think. Some of the things I think have a source back in Masechta Seifrim. Don't quote me on this, but some of the things that we say by Chanukah candle lighting is definitely discussed here, I think. In Masechta Seifrim, not everything that's we Paskin Halacha from, but it's early sources from the Mechabri HaMishnah. It's from the time, I guess, from the Mishnah Braisos. Now over there, they write that the Ziknei Beis Hillel, Ziknei Beis Shammai, the elders of the house of Shammai and Beis Hillel, they wrote a Megillah they wrote like a story, I guess, of Chanukah down. But also the Doiris, did not become, we'll soon see what this means, it was not accepted for generations, until basically Moshiach will come.
Do people know of such a thing, or it's hiding somewhere?
So the question is, what is this Megillah Space Hashmonoi, if I'm not mistaken, is the lashon that they use, that talking about. So the Rebbe learns that there's different publications that we have about Chanukah. First, we have Megillah Antiochus. Some people want to say that Megillah Space Hashmonoi is the Megillah Antiochus, which we have. And the Rebbe says in certain ha'aris of the Rebbe and the Kutei Sichos, the Rebbe quotes, the Rebbe seems to follow the opinions. There's a sefer called Sefer Hashmonoim. I don't know, it's not part of the 24 Kisvei HaKodesh. It's a book called, it's a book called the Maccabees. And the Maccabim were Hashmonoim. It's like a whole sefer. It's like written Ki'ilu Kvayochel in the style of the Tanakh, about the whole story of the thing, very long. It has much more information than just about just the actual story of Chanukah. The whole story is, so I mean, it's used a lot of. I mean, it's used in. It's not considered from the Kisvi HaKodesh, and we know B'chlal that it was very strong things about. Says that one that reads Sfarim that are not from the Chavdal Kisvi HaKodesh. Look in the beginning. Yeah, Sfarim HaChitzainim in the
Who wrote this?
So the way the Rebbe learns that the Megillas Beis Chashminoi is speaking about the Sefer Chashminoi was written according to the Masechta Sefer by the elders of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, which means it was written towards the end of the second Beis Hamikdash, which was still within the time range of the Nes of Chanukah. The Nes of Chanukah happened 200 years before the end of the second Beis Hamikdash. Hillel and Shammai lived 100 years before the Churban, let's say roughly, I don't know, I don't know exact dates, let's say 100 years after Nes Chanukah. So the Ziknei Beis Shammai, Ziknei Beis Hillel still, could have had first-hand information about it.
So hold on. So there's two opinions if Megillas Antiochus is it?
From different Mefarshim, I think it comes out. Some people learn Pshat, that Megillas plays Chashim. I'm not saying opinions that are from the Tanna. It could be historical opinions or whatever, but I don't remember now. I didn't look up the exact source that was saying it, but there's those that learn. Okay, it could be Stam later day Chroinim or later day historians that Megillas Antiochus is what the Masechta says referring to this Megillas Beis Chashmonos Megillas Antiochus, and other.
The Masechta Sefer is the one who writes for the Megillas Beis Chashmonos.
Says V'loi also l'doros. Some write, I forget, it could just be historians. Avdafka means anyone that of any major authority. The Rebbe seems to learn that it goes on. There's another besides Megillas Antiochus is very short and sweet. There's a whole book called Sefer Chashmonos. It's a whole number of chapters in this Chashmonos 1, Chashmonos 2. I never learned it barichis. And
who wrote this?
So according to the way the Rebbe is learning, it's a ziknei. It comes from very early source, from Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, from the elders of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. So the Rogachover, however, seems to learn the way he's learning. It's also an opinion, obviously, is that it's a Megillah which was concealed. In other words, the Gemara says regarding Megillas Esther is the end of the Tanakh. It's the last thing that was allowed to be written. If you look if you look at a timeline when Tanakh was written, so you have Nevi'im Rishonim, Nevi'im Achronim, Chages, Chayim, Malachis, the beginning of the second Beis Hamikdash. You have the Ksuvim, the Neil, Ezra, Nehemiah, the later Ksuvim is all referring to the beginning of the second Beis Hamikdash. Megillas Esther was written, I guess exactly when, but it's considered it was also written around that time. It happened maybe a little earlier because it happened during the time of Golus Bo before the building of the second Beis Hamikdash. But it says the last miracle that was allowed to be written down. That in other words, that Min HaShemayim from heaven they authenticated and they gave the Chachamim knew that they could make this as part of the Tanakh was Megillas Esther. The miracle of Chanukah they weren't allowed to write it. So the way the Rogachover learns, he learns Pashut. The way he learns Pshat in the Gemara over there is that in the time of Megillas Esther, you still had, in order to make something part of Kisvi HaKodesh, you have to have Nevuah. You have to have prophecy. Has to still be open. Since in the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, it was already this man that Nevuah, Taka, the Rebbe learns that there was never a time that Nevuah completely stopped, but Sof Kol Sof Nevuah wasn't so revealed. So in order to make something part of the Kisvi HaKodesh, we don't have even already during the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, they didn't have the koyach to do that. So Memela, they wrote it. It seems, again, it's mamish one paragraph in the Rogachover. I didn't find any other place yet that's printed that he speaks about it. It seems he learned that they wrote a Megillah about the story of Chanukah, but because they knew that Apitoyre, they don't have a koyach to make it as part of the Tanakh, So, but I guess they wanted to write it so they could record it, and then when Moshiach will come, and then the Nevuah will return, it could now become part of the Tanakh. Now, what exactly are we going to do with this Megillah of Chanukah? I have no idea. Are we going to read it or not going to read it? When we light Chanukah candles, doesn't say you have to, that is also already pursuing this. So by Megillah, we publicize the miracle through reading the Megillah. On Chanukah, we light candles. Are we going to read this Megillah or not? Basically. But it's an interesting thing that the way he learns Pshat is that Chanukah also deserves, theoretically, to have its own Megillah of Chanukah, and it was written by the people in that time, because in order to record it for prosperity, but because the Nevuah wasn't so common, you couldn't make it as part of the Tanakh. You need to have Ruach HaKodesh and everything, make something part of the Tanakh. So when Mashiach will come, we'll have them back Nevuah, this will become part of the Tanakh. That's what he learns. Which is a very interesting, piece of information, things that we don't even know what will happen when Mashiach will come. Many things. This is one of the things that the way the Rebbe learns Pshat doesn't seem that the Rebbe is learning like the Rogachev, because the Rebbe learns it's the Sefer HaMakkabim, it's something else, which it's whatever exactly.
But the Megillah of Chanukah is Sefer HaMakkabim.
It's the way the Rebbe seems to learn that Sefer Chashmonoi. What exactly means, like also the Deiris, maybe that it didn't become part of the Tanakh, but we already have it. The way the Rogachev learns seems we're talking about something we don't have.
When Moshiach comes, are you going to read the Megillah?
On Chanukah?
No.
On
Megillah, on Purim.
On Purim, sicher.
Yeah.
Now this leads into another question automatically, which is really what we're going to discuss. But what Rogachev says raises a very interesting question, because we know that we have a famous Maimer Chazal that tells us that all the Nevi'im and Ksuvim and Mashiach will come will be bottled.
The Nevi'im and Ksuvim, not just the Ma'idas.
Well, it goes hand in hand, as you'll soon see. Mm-hmm. Besides Chanukah and Purim it says, someplace it says Chanukah also. Yom Kippur says another place. Whatever, it's different Midrash, different Gersayis, different places. So I'm sorry. Call them 1 second. We're mixing here. All the Yom Tov will be bottled. It says besides Chanukah and Purim. All the Nevi'im and Ksuvim will be bottled besides the Chamisha Chum Shetera Megillah Esther. Now, the reason for Kol HaNevi'im, now the truth is both discuss the simple thing. Kol HaMoedim V'Teilim is simple to discuss. What does it mean all the Yom Tov will become bottled? You won't keep. Yeah, Torah is eternal. You won't eat matzah on Pesach. You won't sit in the sukkah anymore in sukkahs. So there's two ways of learning. One way of learning is the same thing. Mitzvahs b'teilas lasses l'havei. Mitzvahs will be bottled. What's pshat in that? You're not going to fulfill mitzvahs anymore. So one way of learning is kipshutai. You look in that Rebbe, the guy is like, just see Chavav Adan. He learns the kipshutai that or the beginning of Chavav, whatever that will come.
You can stop doing mitzvahs.
Says this. It says mitzvahs b'teilas is blachet chiyas hamesim.
Atera nitzchis.
Huh?
Atera
nitzchis pasha. Good, as I learned the Rebbe pshat, but it says you still have sources that learn that the mitzvahs l'chatchila are only given the time of tchiyas hamesim. Torah nitzchis doesn't mean Torah's nitzchis l'chatchila. For in other words, there's a zman where hayom la'asoisam finishes, right? There's hayom la'asoisam.
And the Rambam says it will never change.
Good, but I'm saying.
And says that it would change. It's up because it's
good, but fine in Achanami. But first of all, according to the Rambam, there's the whole musig of. I don't want to get into Lamdas over here. Good, that's what the Rambam writes in Achanami. But nevertheless, there are places where it says that the Rebbe's whole gang is based on the Rambam also. But you have other Mekoides that clearly learn. They seemingly at least learn Kipshutai. That the are Mekoides, however they'll learn the Rambam the separate discussion, the are Mekoides that understood Kipshutai, that there's a zman of fulfilling mitzvahs, hayom la'asois, and there's a time of fulfilling mitzvahs in this world. Eventually, like the Alter Rebbe writes himself in Tanya Perek Lamed Vav, he writes, the Moshiach Mashiach, right? That the main fulfillment of mitzvahs will be done Dafkin Moshiach Mashiach and Tchiyas HaMesim. And he writes in the Haggadah, Kabbalah Schari Kari Balaf Hashvi. What means Kabbalah Schari Kari Balaf Hashvi? 7th millennium will be Kabbalah Schar. But Pashas means that it's not the Zman of Hayom L'Aseisim anymore. The Elef Hashvi, the 7th millennium, is not the Zman of, Al Pi Pshat, that's what the Rebbe is trying to say, it's not the time of fulfilling mitzvahs anymore.
Are you sure?
Kim Dumani. I'm almost sure that's
Maybe
the way.
Torah is chis, but not mitzvahs.
No.
So 1 minute,
Mitzvahs
1 minute.
sure.
Let's
Mitzvahs
finish.
sure.
Let's finish this whole thing. So B'chol Leifin, how much time do I have?
Enough time to finish.
B'chol Leifin, so you have simple meaning is that there won't be fulfillment. That there come a time. Yeah, another thing is another opinion, another way of looking at it is that no, Chas v'Shalom, like he mentioned, Vaseis, Teiras Ratz Natzim Deibish, it's never going to change. And in that, there's 2 stages. So what does it mean mitzvahs b'teila? So one Chassidish Taich, Chassid Rebbe brought that many times. Mitzvahs b'teila means that the Gili Alakus that's done through the mitzvahs, bottle means that they have bottle b'shishim. Not the bottle means it doesn't exist. It's not important. The revelation of Alakus will be done through the mitzvahs will be completely insignificant compared to the revelation of Slavi. And Tavshin the Beis, the Rebbe said a Moeredik Avor, the very fundamental Yisoid. There, the Rebbe was mechadish. What does it mean? Mitzvahs b'teilas lasud lavoi. He could pilpul the chalam to say what this means. But the point is that the mitzvah is only what does a mitzvah mean? Mitzvah means it's a separate entity. When you say you have to command someone to do it, it means it's you under him, and he's not going to automatically listen to you. You have to command him to do it, and he's listening to you. You know, lasud lavoi, the Yidden will become totally one with the Eibishter. The tzivoy will be bottled, the command will be bottled. Automatically they'll do it because they're one with Eibishter. It's a very deep word that then will be the revelation of the Ratzon Atzmi, the Ratzon of the Eibishter in the world. The world will be one with the Ratzon Atzmi of the Eibishter, so automatically mitzvahs will be fulfilled. That's the Tachlis HaShleim. It's not that I have to command you to do it and you're doing it as a separate entity, as an Eved. But that the world automatically, the Ratzon of the Eibishter is revealed in the world. So, Al derech zeh, this wasn't the main point of that I wanted to get into. Al derech zeh, when we say that Yom Tovim we bought, what does mean Yom Tovim we bought? And here also, you could either learn Kipshuta. You see in certain Rishonim, it seems they were taifas Kipshuta, it won't exist. But Al Pi Chassidus, the word is that the Gili Alakus will be such revelation of godliness then that the revelation of godliness that happens through Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, main Yom Tovim will be completely insignificant. So that's one explanation. If so, comes out what's Taich, that everything will be bottled besides Chanukah and Purim. So this explains that the bittul, every Yom Tov, the revelation of godliness that comes down on that Yom Tov will be insignificant to the revelation of Moshiach. But Chanukah and Purim, they're such high Giluyim. Purim reached, Chanukah also reached Atzmus himself from Mesiras Nefesh. So Mela there the Giluyim will never be bottled. Even when Mashiach comes, Chanukah and Purim will still stand out, because what they reached, what they touched so high that even when Mashiach comes, it will stand out. But now that's from the Negei the Yom Tov. Then there's another thing, Negei in the Vim and Ksuvim. Vim and Ksuvim is a bit different and a bit more complicated to discuss. What does it mean that Nevi'im and Ksuvim will be bottled? So there's 2 elements here. And there's also 2 ways of learning Nevi'im and Ksuvim being bottled also. There's 2 elements here. One element here is that, what are Nevi'im and Ksuvim? Nevi'im and Ksuvim speak about this historical, take a random Navi. Well, what is it talking about? It's either talking about stories that happened, which we learn from. We take, let's say, Rus, take Iyov. Then there's a lot of, or even the Yeshua, Shoftim, Malachim, Shmuel, telling us Jewish history, things that happened that are negate us to learn from. And then you also have a lot of nevuas that are Pashat Musa. You take Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu, Yecheskel, telling us, gotta listen to the Eibishter. If you listen, it'll be good. If you won't listen, whatever. So now, when Mashiach comes, it says, I'll put it this way: the Musar we're not going to need, because the Yetzirah will be taken away. The history will be completely irrelevant theoretically, because it says that all the experiences, the whole Golos, history of the Jewish people will be forgotten. It says all the tzaras harishonos will be forgotten. All the whole, all the tribulations that we went through, and thus will be completely forgotten. There'll be so much good, will be completely forgotten. So Nevi'im and Ksuvim don't serve any role anymore when Moshiach comes. So since they don't serve a role, they'll become bottle. Was zum Refragen. There's so many limudim, there's so many halachas and things that we learn from Nevi'im and Ksuvim. You learn certain things that there's Divrei Kabbalah, for example, certain things we learn from Nevi'im and Ksuvim. Tehillim, there's like with the Shaila, Tehillim, yeah. There's many things that there's many Seidas HaTorah. There's many lessons and things you could learn from the different stories. There's an after that. The answer, give a very interesting answer. It says everything in Tanakh. The Gemara says that everything in the Tanakh, everything in the Mishnah and Gemara is all hidden in the Torah itself. If you will be able to open up the Chamisha Chumshei Torah and see everything from them themselves. We're not able to, so we need to have the Mishnah, the Gemara. We need to have everything explaining it to us. When Mashiach will come, our knowledge will become so much greater that you'll open up the Chamisha Chumshei Torah, all the lessons that we could have learned from we'll see it in Chamisha Chumshei Torah themselves. The whole Gemara, a story with Ilfa, one of the Amiroim, or Tanoim, he was standing up on a ship, they used to have like a tall, what did they call it? Yeah, and you said, anyone can ask me while I'm up here, I could show you any Mishnah, any Braisa, how it's hidden in the Mishnah. In other words, he was able to show what later had to be explained more, but he was able to show, and it's hinted already in the Mishnah. That is, you could show how all Mishnah and Braisa and all Torah Shabbat Peh is hinted in Torah Shabbat. So if so, you won't need it. Or there's another word, Yidden will be such big Nevi'im themselves that what are they not going to need? All the Musar, all the things, like they'll have it on their own anyway. Like they'll have the divine knowledge, the divine spirit themselves. So the different things that they can learn out from the Nevi'im, they'll have themselves. That is. So according to that, comes out. I don't want to get into the alumnus here because it's going to get too much off track. But it comes out that what pshat is going to be bottled. Here also you can learn two ways. You could either learn that a pashat we won't have it anymore, or you can learn a pashat won't serve a purpose. It's not going to be insignificant. It's not going to be important. For a number of reasons, from many of the Rebbe's sichos, it seems that he clearly learns not pshat that Nevi'im and Ksuvim won't exist b'chlal. I have to finish off. The chiddush of Megillas Esther is that Megillas Esther will always remain because the story of Purim will never be forgotten. The tzara of Purim, the Ibr Lebenish of Yidden and Purim will always remain. They're never going. It's going to be something that even when we're going to say that all the Moedim V'Teilim, all the Yomim Tovim, we're not going to, they're going to be insignificant. We're going to forget about it. There'll be so much good when Moshiach will come. So, nevertheless, Megillas Esther, the Rebbe says there it's going to be unique, that it's going to be, again, it depends how you learn Pshat, but according to one way means that the story of Purim, the Ibr Lebenish of the Yidden in Purim, that story, episode in Golus is going to remain forever. We're never going to forget. That will never be deleted, so that will never be swallowed up through the Giluim of Las's love.
Why not?
Why not? Because the whole story of Purim was an Indian of Pashas, the Cheder, the same reason. It was the whole story of Purim was in. Ich will nicht da reingehen in Purim. I wrote a other on this.
Let's meet the Loi Misi Bereis.
Dort steht, gut, aber lecker mit der Misi Bereis ist, wenn the Halachas, wenn gehe der Etzem Sipur. Ein noch Name, aber the Shaila is, voran Sachen, wo sein und Moschel, du nimmst, you take certain medrashim, they'll tell you things based on psukim. There's still a difference whether it's kolol and. You want to hear my pshat, I'll tell you my pshat. The way I understand, not my pshat, the way I understand it. Now, regarding the Nevi'im and Ksuvim, so B'kitzur Nimrod, so if you look at it, you could say basically there's going to be no need for it, right? There's a sikha of the Rebbe. The Rebbe gives one answer to your thing. The sikha of the Rebbe, sikha of the Rebbe, Cheluk Chavav. The Rebbe explains a very fundamental thing. The Rebbe says the Nevi'im and Ksuvim are going to at least the Rebbe focus brings that one part of the Nevi'im will definitely remain when Mashiach will come. The word is it won't have a din of Kisvei HaKodesh. It won't be considered as part of the Tanakh. The Tanakh, as we know it today, there are a certain Kedusha, a certainness that won't be there. Megillas Esther will still be part of the Tanakh. The Ksiva, the action, in other words, the Rebbe is saying the Tanakh is written down that we should remember. These certain things are written down for prosperity. Once we reach a time when we're definitely never going to forget, there's no reason to write it down anymore. It's already within us. It loses its self-importance as its own self-worth as a book that's written down for prosperity. But Megillah says that it's not just written down for remembrance. The Rebbe explains it as Mchias Amalek hat lying to Zamrid and Atzmus, and it has its own. Even when Mashiach comes, it wasn't just written down so we should remember the story. It was written down because the story of Purim is a very strong message which deserved, that has a chashivas b'fnei atzmai. See when Mashiach will come, ich look the sikh, they want to see the exact ages up in Nigla Pichsidis. So
what does that have to do with the Koran? It's the Eibshter's Ratzon, he wrote Torah and Vim Psurim. How could that be possible? It's not a storybook. Not a storybook.
True, Emunot. The shaila is what's going to be bottled. The shaila is. So in other words, like this, I tell you something you know automatically on your own, right? So I have a book that gives you a manual, a chveis, how you should operate your car.
Yeah.
You only need it as a manual as long as when you go into a car, you still need to be told to press this, to do this. If automatically you know how to do it, you don't need the manual anymore.
Yeah, but that it's status and it has.
So you're going to have it. It's going to be there. It just won't have to be written down.
It's written down already. What do you mean?
In other words, there won't be a halacha, if you want to get in Litvish Hagdoris, you have a halacha, Kisvei HaKodesh has a kedusha. You had certain halachas that Kisvei HaKodesh mitame yadayim. You know that?
No.
The whole thing that I don't want to get into the whole thing. So there's a certain halacha, there's a certain musig, that certain things are meant to be written down, and as they're written, they have a kedusha, because there's a mitzvah to write them. The actual writing and the scroll on which it's written has importance.
Okay, when the Nevi'im Psurim falls on the floor, you don't have to pick it up? It doesn't have kedusha?
Of course it does.
No, by the Geula, you have Kisvei HaKodesh playing on the floor.
I'm not saying you won't have to pick it up. The shaila just speaks on the
sikh is well to be on top of it.
There's a lot to discuss. We can sitzen da und verbringen bis Chatzois. Good. I told you I'll leave you with some homework to think about. But you look to Sikh, you look in Chelech Havav, the Sikh on Pashas the Tzav, I think. The Rebbe explains it this way. You see what the Rebbe says there. There's another nikud. There's a maimer of now. There's one more thing I'll finish off. The maimer of the Alter Rebbe. So from a number of places it seems that it's not pshat. It'll be completely bottled. It's not going to exist. It means that you won't have to write it down. It won't be necessary, so to say. It's not going to. Won't have a din of Kisvei HaKodesh, whatever you want to say. And one of the rights is the Moshel Tillim. They're not going to sing Tillim. Whatever. Yes, lying, but there's one more word. There's a maimer of the Alter Rebbe, though. The Alter Rebbe discusses of Kabbalah, Chassidus. He says that by Chamisha Chumshei Torah, it's the Dvar Hashem Kfi Shehu. And by Nevi'im and Ksuvim, it was the wisdom of Hashem, again, rephrasing this in my own terms, that was established in Nevi'im, legabi a particular Indian, a particular situation, at a particular time. It's not the etzem wisdom of Hashem the way it is on its own. It's the wisdom of Hashem as was applicable to a particular situation, what you should do, v'chulu v'chulu. So Alter Rebbe says when Moshiach will come, therefore it's going to be bottled. Because when Moshiach will come, those levels won't. It's only, so to say. The Rebbe discusses also a lot of times the difference between Torah and Nevuah. Nevuah is the tzedach hashah, so to say. It's tzedach, what to do in a particular time and place. Torah is the will of the Eibusher be'etzem. It's not discussing this time, that time. Discussing that. So Nevuah is more the Navi is giving you a message that's relevant at this time, at this place. It's true there are Nevuahs that were needed for generations. But Saf Kol Saf, the Gedder of Nevuah is something which it's different than the Gedder of Teiras Hashem, the Chamisha Chumshei Torah. So to use this Rebbe, this Chochmah, this Netz Nevi'im, we know was Netzach V'hoid, which is Chassidus Kabbalah says, Lebar Migufa, no Chesed Gvur and Defeder, so the main meat is Netzach V'hoid, like are the 2 feet that are lower than the main body, whatever the basis of Kabbalah is